two monks were standing in the cloister of their monastery in quite a heated argument. The first one saying, "The truth is, we can only reach nirvana if we practice the precepts, meditate, undertake the rituals." And the other was saying, "The truth is, we can only reach nirvana if we do good works that were altruistic and compassionate." And just as the argument was getting very heated, the abbot came by, and the monks asked him to intercede, to tell them who was right. And the abbot listened to the first monk, and he said, yes, you're right, that is the truth." And then he listened to the second one's argument, and he said, yes, you're right, that is the truth. But then another monk who had been standing nearby was listening, and he said to the abbot, "But Master, it is not possible for them both to be right." And the old abbot said, "You're right, that is the truth." Yunus was a seeker after truth, and he'd explored in the seen world for truth in all the ways that it were possible. He watched the workings of mankind, observed in his attempts to find out what truth is. But then, after some years of exploration, he decided that it was time to look for truth in the unseen world. So he decided to give up all the trappings of society and rely only on the unseen world. So he went down by a river and sat under a tree and waited. Now the night passed easily, he slept soundly. The next morning, as the day woke, there were those who passed by, the fishermen going down to fish, and the travellers passing by on the road, and they acknowledged him because, after all, he was wearing the seeker's robes, that of a dervish. But then, as the day went on, his hunger pangs started to get stronger and stronger, and he wondered and waited. What is this unseen world? But just as the sun was reaching its apex and starting to move across down towards the horizon, as he looked in the river, he saw a parcel approaching. And he went and brought this parcel out of the river. It was bound in a piece of straw. And when he opened it up, he found that it was halwa, that wonderful sweet made of almond paste with nuts and fruit. He thought, this is food of paradise. It weighed about a quarter pound. And after this repast, he waited again. Now, he thought, now perhaps I'm on to some truth of the unseen world. And so the very next day, at the same time, a parcel came floating down the river. There was his halwa again. Well, this was wondrous to him. This was the food of paradise. Now he wondered to himself, because he thought, when you find truth, you're duty bound to go and teach it. But then he hadn't found the source of this truth. So he thought to himself that he must seek the source of this. And so he began to walk along the river as the river flowed towards him. And of course, as he traversed the bank, at the same time, there was his parcel of halwa arriving for him on time. But then he turned a bend in the river, and he found that the river widened out extraordinarily, and there in the middle of the river was an island. And on that island was a castle. Now Yusuf looked, and he thought to himself, could it be that this food of paradise could be emanating from this palace? And he speculated a little bit about it and wondered. But just as he was wondering this, another old dervish was coming the other way. And the old dervish said, my companion, what is it that you're doing here? And Yunus told him that he was seeking the source of the truth. And he thought that perhaps the source of the truth was in this castle, in the center of the river. And the old dervish said, oh, you obviously don't know the story of this palace. And so the old dervish proceeded to tell him that in this palace was ensconced a beautiful maiden who was there, guarded by unseen forces, because she had refused his hand in marriage. Well, said Yunus, how would it be possible for me to get to have entry into this place? The old dervish said, well, I can give you some chants, some incantations that would call some unseen forces to you. So the old dervish says, I can't tarry long because I'm on a pilgrimage myself. But hastily he told Yunus the chant that he must intone, and then he went on his way. So Yunus set to practice this chant, and he did, day and night, and waiting for the time when his food of paradise would arrive, and surely it did. But then, when opening his eyes, he happened to look up, and there on the parapet of the palace was a maiden more beautiful than he had ever seen in his life, and just as he was watching, she tossed a parcel off the parapet into the river. And Yunus immediately knew that this was the source of the food of paradise. So, of course, he had to find his way in. And just as he was speculating and beginning his chant again, a handsome youth, obviously not of this world, appeared to him and said, I am a representative of the jinns, those who live on the border of the unseen world. I'm here to do your bidding. Eunice asked, "Can you help me to enter this place? I need to find the source of truth." So, this representative of the jinns called his forces together, and with their help, they were able to break through the 3 barriers, unseen, that guarded the beautiful maiden. And so Eunice was able to enter this palace. When he came into the presence of the beautiful maiden, she thanked him profusely for breaking down those barriers which allowed no one to enter her palace. And she said, "Whatever it is that I can do for you, I will do." And Eunice said, "I'm a seeker of the truth." And she said, "I will give you truth as I know it." And he said, "Please, would you tell me, what is it that has motivated you, urged you to toss the food of paradise into the river each day?" "Oh," she said, "that is the residue of that which I use after I bathe in goat's milk every day. It is merely the waste product that I use to cleanse, heal, and soothe and nourish my physical body." "Ah," said Eunice, "now I understand. Truth is." How would you complete this story? What is it that Eunice understood? Truth is. What is truth for us? What is the basis on which we rest our daily actions, our daily thoughts, our daily emotions?
Well, truth can be hard to see if things are out of context. But when you put things into context, then truth can be self-evident and be quite easy to see. It depends on what context you're in and whether you can see that. Oftentimes, if you're out of context, it's not visible and you can't figure it out. And then you get put in the context and you go, "Oh, that's how." When he got put into that context of understanding that she was bathing and that was that, oh, he understood. Yeah, he understood.